We'll continue today with the next question, question 4. Why did some European powers scramble for the control of Cameroon in the 1880s? Explain why the Cameroon coastal people prefer British annexation. What factors make the signing of the Germano-Duala Treaty possible in 1884? Question mark. Now, the answer to this question, we're going to start with the introduction first. Before giving the introduction, the first part of this question requests us to give reason why European powers scramble over Africa. The second part requests us to give to explain why the coastal people prefer British annexation. And the third part of this question requests us to give factors that made the signing of the Germano-Duala Treaty possible. So the introduction of this question is going to carry the definition of the scramble only. Now, the scramble for Cameroon was a race, rivalry, competition, struggle by Britain, Germany, and to an extent France to annex Cameroon. Remember, the first part of this question requests us to give why European powers scramble over Cameroon. That is what we are going to have now. European powers scrambled to annex Cameroon because of the following reason. Economically, they wanted a market to sell their manufactured goods. This was because of the Industrial Revolution in Europe, which led to the overproduction of goods that could not all be sold in Europeans' market. They wanted cheap raw materials for their home industry like ivory, palm oil, and kernel. They discovered fertile land in Cameroon, which was good for plantation agriculture. Example, the fertile volcanic soil of Mount Cameroon. European traders pressurized their home government to annex the territory so that they can be protected. They wanted to monopolize trade in Cameroon, which was profitable. They wanted to invest surplus capitals and create jobs for the unemployed in Europe to recover debt owed to European traders by the coastal middlemen. In the social domain, they wanted to create extra living space for their excess population. They wanted to spread European cultures and civilization to the native who were considered backward. There was pressure from European missionaries who wanted protection from their home government to carry out evangelization. They wanted to suppress inhuman practices like slavery and slave trade, female circumcision. Europeans believed that they were superior and had to control the native. In the political domain, they wanted to win honor and prestige. It was believed that the more territory you have, the more grandeur and honor you deserve. They wanted to compensate territorial losses. For example, France wanted to compensate the loss of Alsace and Lorraine to Germany. They wanted to control the natural power at Abo, which could be used in times of wars. Example, the Ambas Base and the Douala Port. British reluctance to annex Cameroon influenced other European powers like France and Germany to develop interest in the territory. Lastly, the empire-building ambition of some European powers caused the scramble for Cameroon. France, for example, wanted to link her territory from Algeria to French Equatorial Africa and Britain from West Africa covering Cameroon. The second part of this question, remember, requests us to give reason why native requested for British annexation. They requested for British annexation because of the following reason. First, the native preferred the British because of the British crusade against slave trade on the Cameroon coast, which was inhuman. They were influenced by the annual duchies or gifts, commonly called commerce, given to the natives by the British. They wanted British protection against the French, who were advancing from the southern coast in places like Malimba, Grand Batanga, and Campo. Many natives had gained jobs or were employed in the British firms like the Ambas Bay, John Hurt and Company, RW companies. They wanted in their towns as it was in Calabar in the neighboring Nigeria. They were impressed with the good work of the London Baptist missionaries, such as evangelization, opening of schools, and health centers. They loved the English culture. This includes their language, name, titles, and ways of dresses. This influenced them to demand for British annexation. Now, the third part of this question now requests us to give factors that made it possible for the signing of the Germano-Duala Treaty. First, the German exploited the initial British reluctance to annex Cameroon. the natives were discouraged with the British reluctance. So one of the factors that encouraged the signing of the Germano-Duala Treaty was the reluctance of the British. The second, the Germans were more generous. During negotiation, they influenced the native rulers with gifts and bribes and promised more. This influenced the native to easily accept what? German annexation. Third, the German used the gunboat. The German used the gunboat diplomacy to succeed. For instance, the Germans' gunboat called Mori either impressed or frightened the native to easily accept annexation. The late arrival of the British official, Consort Herwet, enabled the Germans to succeed to annex Cameroon. The Douala ruler were heavily indebted to the German traders. Hence, they had to accept German annexation. They had to accept German annexation. They had to accept German annexation. The German deceived the chief that they were going to respect their middleman monopoly of trade. This influenced the chief to accept German annexation. The German misled the British to annex Cameroon. For instance, Bismarck informed but deceived the British on Nachtigall's mission to Cameroon by saying that Nachtigall was coming to Cameroon not to annex the territory, but to see how